Welcome to this episode of Caked. I made gelatin bubbles for my Halloween cake and forgot to show you guys how I did it. So here's a tutorial on how I made these decorative gelatin bubbles. To begin making our bubbles, I'm going to be using water balloons for this. You don't want to use the big balloons for this. They won't really work for this project. So for this, you want to get as small balloons as you possibly can. And then you just blow up your balloon as a regular balloon. You want to stretch it out a little bit because they're so small they can pop easily. And then you just blow it up. You can use your mouth for this as well. And once you've hit your desired size, you just tie it up like you would a regular balloon. Okay, there you go. And then you take a toothpick and you put it right at the edge of the balloon, right up against the part that you tied. And then you take a piece of masking tape and you want to tape it right up against the edge of the balloon so that it's standing upright onto the stick. And then you just go all the way down the stick, making sure that the balloon is stuck to it. And there you go. You want to get your balloon as close as possible to looking like a lollipop. This one is hanging down a bit, which might mean that when you dip your balloon in the gelatin, it's dripping from here instead of from the bottom. So you want it to get standing upright as close as possible. What you can do at this point is take another piece of masking tape and try to tie it as close to the top as possible so that it's standing upright. So I can try to do that now to show you. And then just take it all the way down the balloon or all the way down the stick. Okay, and there you go. That's about as close as I can get. So now when you dip it into the gelatin, the drips are going down this way, which is fine because that's the part that you're going to cut off anyway, and that part won't really be seen because this top part is what you'll see against the cake. Then you just put it into your slot right here, and you start making the other ones. You want to actually make these bubbles in different sizes. You don't want them all to be the same because bubbles aren't the same. It depends on what kind of cake you're making, but in general, whether you're making a bubblegum cake, or you're making a rubber ducky cake, or you're making a cauldron cake, they are all different sizes. Bubbles are not uniform, so don't stress about making them all the same. Okay, then you take your toothpick, put it right up against the balloon, and you take your masking tape, and you go around, and then you wrap it all the way down, making sure that the balloon is completely adhered to the toothpick. And there you have it. Then you keep making balloons until you have enough to cover the number of bubbles that you need and then some. You want to make sure to make a few extras, make quite a few extras if you can, because there is bound to be quite a few that don't work. Some will pop, some may collapse, some might not stick to the balloon, so you want to have a few extra just to be sure. This is actually a very time-consuming process, so you may want to do this a couple of days in advance before you actually need these bubbles. Plus, it will give your bubbles some time to dry, and you'll probably need at least overnight for them to dry, if not up to 48 hours. So try to do them as much in advance as you can. The next step is to put a very thin layer of shortening on each balloon, enough so that your balloon will be able to remove itself from the gelatin once it hardens. You don't want to put too much shortening onto your balloons or else the gelatin won't actually even stick to it to begin with. So a very thin layer to coat the balloon, enough so that you can't even see it actually when it's on it. So you want to take a very little bit of shortening and just cover each balloon. And you can just do this with your hands. You don't want to have any bit of the white showing on the balloon from the shortening when you're done. The next step is to use 2 tablespoons of cold water to every 1 pack of gelatin. I'm using the Knox brand of gelatin, and in each Knox brand there's about 1 tablespoon of gelatin. So I'll be making 2 packages, which is 4 tablespoons of water. You want to make sure that you're using a heat-proof bowl so you can put it in the microwave when you're done. So now I'll be putting in 4 tablespoons of water. Then what you want to do is take your gelatin and just sprinkle it over the water just slowly, and then let it sit there and let it bloom for about 5 to 10 minutes. So just sprinkle it over the water little by little. And now you can just let it sit there for about 5 to 10 minutes and let it bloom. At this point, you also want to color your gelatin in luster dust. I'm using green and light green to make a slimy color. You don't want to use gel colors too much in this one because your gelatin bubbles will take a lot longer to dry. So I like to use my luster dust for this. So you just want to add enough so that you get the color that you need. These pearly colors are really good too here because they give your bubbles a nice shine so that it looks like a real bubble. And then you just mix it up. Your gelatin should be hard here, which is fine because you will be putting it in the microwave to turn back into a liquid. Put your gelatin in the microwave for about 5 seconds at a time, just enough for it to turn into a liquid. You do not want your gelatin boiling, so if you start to see it boiling, immediately remove it from the microwave. Just do it about 5 seconds at a time so that you can tell when it's turning into a liquid. And then you take your balloon and you dip it into your gelatin. Just roll it around in there till you completely cover the ball. And you let it drip off. And this is a messy process. There's no going around it. It's pretty messy. So you just take a balloon. Once they're completely dry, you lift it up. You might have to cut it a little bit if you went a little too close to the edge like I did. And then you just have to cut off a piece so that you can get to the balloon. You have to cut a hole in the actual balloon. And then you pull out and then it will just deflate and it will come out pretty easily, just like that. And then you have a gooey, slimy ball. Just to go like that to act as a bubble. Don't worry about the back, no one's going to see it. This part will be on the cake. I actually made mine a little bit gross looking on purpose and let it just droop because I wanted to make it look gross like a Halloween cauldron. But if you want them to be perfect, you want them to be standing up as straight as possible to make it look like a lollipop so it doesn't start dripping and leave little things like this hanging off. But this works perfectly for me because I wanted it to look like it was oozing out a little bit because it was a Halloween cake. These bubbles are actually really easy to use. You just peel it back, use a toothpick, cut a hole in it, let it deflate a little bit. Once it deflates, it will slowly pull away and then it just comes out just like that. If you have some balloons stuck in it like I do, you can just fish it out using your toothpick and it will come out pretty easily. They are actually really moldable and really pliable, so you don't have to worry about if you leave a dent in it. Look, just pull it out. If you leave a dent in it, it will actually, like you can literally dent it and then just go in and push it right back in. And you just go in and push it right back in, just like that. And that's it. To be honest, this wasn't the best outcome and could definitely be improved if you spend a bit more time on it. Practice makes perfect, but I didn't enjoy it so much, so I probably won't be practicing very much. Let me know in the comments if you have any more questions. Thank you so much for watching and don't forget to subscribe.